about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Well, Cowboys mandatory minicamp kicks off tomorrow, but tonight we have another edition of the Locked On Cowboys Squad Show. Monday night Cowboys talk for you, and we start with a welcome to the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Landon McCool. Landon, good to see you. Looking good as always. And also right there as well, my co-host on the in-season Cowboys postcasts, the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, coming up on our show tonight, we are going to have the very latest on the Cowboys who wrapped up their OTAs last week, but this week it is mandatory minicamp for 3 days. And Coach, I'm going to start with you tonight. Mandatory means mandatory. You're required to be there. Pretty simple. So talk to us about that, and what can we expect over the next 3 days?
Well, I mean, you're trying to do a bunch of things. You're hoping that your young guys are caught up. You're ready to show guys how to practice, especially these younger guys. You want the vets to show up. I mean, I saw today where Tyron Smith is out, already working with some guys. You'll have some veteran guys in there trying to help some of the younger guys transition. And, you want to set the stage for expectations. What is it that you're wanting to accomplish? Where are you going to go? I've already seen where looks like Schottenheimer has already talked to Micah and said, hey, we're going to get this thing done. So, words of wisdom, the confidence flowing early out of this thing, and then let's go practice and see guys in position. Let's put guys 11 out there, 11 on 11. Let's see. It's not going to be contact when you think about what we're dealing with here, but I'm talking about guys lining up, shifts, motions, guys making checks. All the little things that you've been trying to get done in, right after the draft when you had the rookies in, and then, what you've been doing through these OTAs. So you want the transition to be smooth and all of these guys to understand what their assignments are and be ready to, once you break this, be ready to go to camp and be ready to go, set your sights on trying to win a championship. And I'm sure all those things will be talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think, minicamp to me is a lot what, folks think about what they want out of OTAs, right? Where it's the whole team. They're actually kind of working a little bit on what they're going to be doing in the regular season, or at least practicing kind of installs and sort of getting things going a little bit more. You've got the vets mixed in with the rooks. There's no contact. There's no hitting. But I think as far as kind of getting better reads on, potential changes in depth chart or even just the health of some of these guys, like specifically Diggs, right? Recovering from an ACL injury, has been working out on his own. He came in today, like everybody else, to kind of do the initial physicals that you have to do to get onto the field. And so, because we haven't really heard anything, from the team about where Diggs was in his recovery, now that Britt Brown's kind of gotten his look at the leg, hopefully we'll get a little bit more precise update from the coach about his health. But yeah, I think it's a lot of kind of more of the same with OTAs, except obviously since it's mandatory, they can actually start working on, some of the aspects of the install that maybe they were kind of only hinting at in OTAs.
And we're expecting everybody to show up, right? I mean, everybody.
It sounds like it. I mean, Diggs and Parsons were both there today. And those were really the two that we were kind of concerned about potentially missing. yeah, it's mandatory, and there's fines for missing. So because it's mandatory, I don't think anyone's missing out on their paychecks over this.
Right. Well, to that point, you guys both brought it up. Both Micah and Trevon Diggs were at the Star today working out ahead of minicamp. And so apparently, I did not know this, but apparently there's some kind of a new TikTok trend, right? Where apparently a guy calls some of his guy friends to tell them good night.
To wish them good night, yes.
Yeah, I guess the beauty of it is you film it, and that makes it funny, right? To get the reaction. So apparently, Micah Parsons made a little run, and he called head coach Brian Schottenheimer to tell him good night. And so apparently they're having fun. It's a good vibe. And to your point, Coach, Brian Schottenheimer told Parsons, quote, "I know this is weird for everybody, but look, you're handling everything the right way, bro." Schottenheimer said this thing is going to get worked out. So they're on the same page. The vibe is good. Micah, I guess, responded, "Hell yeah. See you on Monday." So just like we've been talking about for the last couple of months, just a matter of when it gets done. But a good.
So what you're really saying is that he shot him a TikTok and told him good night, and then Schottenheimer hit him back on the CB radio on Channel 19 and said, "Hey, you got your ears on out there, good buddy. We're good to go."
No smokies on the highway. No smokies on the highway. We're all clear, right? Is that Coach? Yeah, it's funny. If you haven't watched the video, I mean, everyone should go watch the video because it is kind of funny. And obviously the gag is that, as grown men, we don't normally call each other to wish each other good night. So it makes for a humorous interaction when a random guy calls you up to tell you good night. And I think the interesting thing about the Shoddy situation is that, I mean, the whole bit is that obviously these people don't know that you're calling to wish them good night, right?
Yeah.
So it was kind of off the cuff and a little bit of candor from Schottenheimer when they filmed it, because I don't think he knew necessarily that, or at least at the time of the recording, that it was going to end up on TikTok or on Twitter. But it was interesting just to kind of see his kind of natural reaction to Micah calling him up, and it was actually kind of a little bit funny because the initial reaction that Shoddy gave him was a little bit of, "Hey, is everything okay? Like, why are you calling me randomly?" Like, so it was kind of fun to get his initial reaction. Shoddy is very close to my age, and I'm I'm certainly old compared to these players, right? And so it was funny to watch the kind of difference between the guys on this team who are clearly familiar with this TikTok phenomenon, and Shoddy, who was completely caught off guard and just making sure his star player was okay and not calling him from jail or from the hospital.
And that's a good thing, because you did have the trifecta of former Cowboys players and Joseph and Pac-Man and Greg Hardy. Get them some time in the Crowbar Hilton. So that's a good thing.
Well, thank goodness Parsons isn't like those guys, but yes, you never know when car flips over or something terrible happens. I'm knocking on wood so none of this terrible stuff happens. But yes, it was. I think there was a few moments when Shoddy first picked up the phone. He was a little bit nervous about what the nature of the call was.
All right, so let me ask you about this on a more serious note with Trevon Diggs. What can we expect, do you think, if anything? I mean, how much can they really glean? How much can they look and see? How much of a feel, Coach, can they really get? From.
I mean, you're going to hear. I mean, I'm sure that Britt Brown will put him through. He'll put him through the gauntlet. They'll want to know. Hey, how? Give us a percentage on strength. Give us a range of motion update. I mean, all those things that they're going to want. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll be put through the workout. And when you forfeit the kind of money that he forfeited not coming in this year, everybody is a little bit uneasy about that situation. And so I'm sure that I mean, knowing Britt Brown the way that I know him, he'll put him through exactly what he needs to put him through, and there'll be a gauge for where he is. And then, by the time Thursday rolls around, I'm sure they're going to tell him, hey, here's, give him an update on where they feel like he is, and discuss what they're going to do as a plan moving forward.
Could you tell? Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I think it's it's not like Diggs's team hasn't been in touch with Britt Brown. Probably, I feel like there has been communication, and so I think it's more just Britt kind of confirming likely what he's heard. But yes, obviously, all the things that coach has said definitely applies. Like, he's going to come in here, he's going to do all the kind of physical tests. He's going to, not just take the development coach's word for it on where he is in the recovery. He's going to, put him through the paces to see where he is. Obviously, they prefer for him to be here working with Britt Brown the whole time. But like they've said last week, a lot of the stuff is optional. It's not mandatory. So they're going to work with whatever coaching that Diggs had in the offseason to kind of make sure that the plan is in line with what they want. But it's going to be a lot of checking and rechecking to make sure that knee is where it's supposed to be, especially after having experienced what happened last year, where it felt like maybe it wasn't quite all the way healthy, and that's part of the reason it may have gotten hurt again.
Coach, could you tell, with just your eyes, could you tell, if a player was like great at one level, or if he was not quite right, or if something was wrong? Some of your regulars, could you tell by the way that they looked?
Oh, yeah. And then, like I said, I mean, those guys, that's what they do for a living. I mean, that's what Britt Brown does for a living, is he gauges where guys are. I mean, it'd be like taking a car into a mechanic. I mean, that mechanic's going to know, how your car is running, how all those things are going. And so, and then, he's going to report to the coach, and then they're going to decide, what is the plan moving forward. And everybody will be in on it, because they'll have the personnel guys in there, and they'll want to know. I mean, they'll want to know exactly what the update is. And I mean, you get a situation where you got Jair Alexander possibly getting cut from Green Bay. And I mean, you want to be able, and I'm not saying in any way the Cowboys are picking him up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm making an example of saying that we want to know where he is. We want to know what is the gauge on this. And if, there's a lot of sentiment out there that he didn't do what he needed to do the last time he had a knee issue, as far as strengthening the knee, as far as making sure that, you got what you need to do, and from a stability standpoint in those ligaments, so that you don't strain or pull or, step. I mean, it's not, the thing about playing defensive back is it's different than any other position, because you're running backwards half the time, for crying out loud. So, I mean, all of those things have to be, they have to be known, and then there has to be a gauge put out there, and then there has to be a goal, and then they've got to be, where do they want him to be, and what percentage do they want him to be at?
I think Coach brings up a really great point too, because he's right in the sense that this doesn't mean that Jair Alexander is in play.
I'm going to bring him up, though. That's coming up in segment number 2.
All right. Well, I'll just say this, that I think the injury stuff relates to the fact of, do you need to go out and get a guy like that, right? Like, that's the thing, is like, yeah. I don't know that, like, it's a certainty, but now would be the time when you come in and you take a look at Diggs' knee, and maybe it's terrible. Maybe the situation doesn't look good. And that would be the kind of triggering event that would make you think, hey, maybe it is time to call Alexander's agent up on the phone and see what he wants for.
Stephon Gilmore, whoever. I mean, whoever you've got ranked up there. I mean, the point is that this is not Diggs is not a fast guy as it is. He is not. He was not fast coming out of Alabama. I mean, that's that was the knock on him. He's not a pure speed guy, and so this is a situation where you better be very sound with the structure of that knee, and we better have a comfort level. Is he a gambler as a corner? Absolutely. He can sit on routes, and he's sharp. And I mean, you know, I'm not taking anything away from him either. What I'm saying is you better have a really good gauge as to where he's at. And Britt will be able to tell him that. I'll say, I think he's about 75%. But if we do this, this, and this, by the time we get to Oxnard, we think he'll be 90%. And if we do this, and you know, then maybe, you know, by the time we're 2 weeks in, we can see him do this. I mean, all of those things are going to be laid out. And that's, you know, that's why they pay those guys. I mean, those guys make good money, and they're good at what they do. And so they're very sharp, and he's as good as anybody at understanding where guys are and understanding how to, you know, use those resistance bands and all that stuff that he does.
All right. Good stuff. Good way to start things off. As always, we want to hear from you via the comment crew. Love your input, love your comments and opinions. So please keep that going. Back to the Micah Parsons TikTok call, the Brian Schottenheimer. CJ says, hello from Alaska. I'm going to start calling Marcus to tell him good night. So, well, if you can film that, and
yeah, let's definitely put that on. I guarantee that will make it up on the Locked On TikTok. If you get that, please send it my way.
Give him one of those moose calls too that you
yeah, Jay Kelly says Shotty didn't waste the opportunity, which is what you were saying, Landon. So good stuff there. And TA says is the first mini practice today. Actually, no, tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday. And that's what Matt Williams just said as well. Thank you, Matt, for that. All right. Well, both the coach and Landon mentioned it. It's like the worst kept rumor / take out there. But Jair Alexander and the Packers parting ways. Could the two-time Pro Bowler be a Cowboy? We'll get into that and a lot more as we continue. Great to be with you on this Monday night. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. Don't know about you, but if you ever take a look at your bank account, right, especially if you have 3 teenage daughters and you wonder, where did all your money go? Well, if you don't have daughters, then maybe it's dining out, maybe it's online shopping, entertainment. It's very easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, all right? It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, your investments, and spending all in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you can actually start building wealth. Now, one of the surprising insights when you do use Monarch Money, you realize just how much you're really spending on food delivery, and it really does help you budget smarter and save more. They have all-in-one convenience. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Okay, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show. The coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, Landon McCool, great to be with you. The Cowboys opening up mandatory minicamp tomorrow for the next 3 days at the Star. As we mentioned, the big headline from today from Frisco, both Micah Parsons and Trevon Diggs were at the facility working out, getting ready, and we'll have lots to say, and that's a great way to plug the daily Locked On Cowboys Squad Show with Landon and Marcus. They will be all over it all week long. Don't need to say that. You guys already know that, but just want to mention it just in case. All right, guys. One of the first things I saw this morning when I woke up, news that the Green Bay Packers are going to be cutting two-time Pro Bowler, their corner, Jair Alexander. They gave him a pretty big extension, I think, a year ago. Weren't really interested in doing another one at this time, and so they agreed to part ways. Tons of posts, though, tons of blogs and reactions calling on the Cowboys to sign him. The only big problem is the money and the cap. It could be worse, but considering what the Cowboys are trying to do with Micah and Coach, there's another highly paid player on the team. Again, there's just only so much to go around. And as you both alluded to, we're not really sure where the whole secondary is at with injuries. So with that said, give me your initial thoughts on Jair Alexander maybe coming to Dallas.
I think, look, I mean, you said it, like there's a lot of kind of injury uncertainty in the Cowboys secondary right now. And if you sign Jair Alexander, there's still going to be a lot of injury uncertainty in the Dallas Cowboys secondary. I think this guy, the reason he, isn't long for the Packers after signing a contract last year, that may have been 2023, is because he's played less than 500 snaps in the last 2 seasons, which is extremely problematic, right? And frankly, you don't really need another Trayvon Diggs situation when you've already got Trayvon Diggs on this team. I'm not completely opposed to this at all. I just think that, the people that are suggesting that this is a slam dunk, easy to do signing, I think the issue is that it's kind of, you have a lot of conflicting things going. You have a lot of teams out there that need starting corners, right? That are willing to risk even more than you are, financially and roster spot wise, to get this guy on there and have him be their hope for their starting outside corner. What the Cowboys need is like another guy to kind of get them through the early part of the season, who can then fall back into being part of a rotation, right? I worry about adding another kind of perennially hurt guy into the situation, and suddenly it's just another contract that you've got with a guy that you can't rely on to be on the field. I mean, that's the reason that the Packers are letting him go. So I understand wanting to add to the group, and I think, and I'm not against it, and I'm certainly not against spending the money, whatever it would cost to get Alexander, because I actually don't think it'll be too much. But I think it'll be a starter's level chunk of change. I would just rather get a guy that I feel like isn't coming off a series of injuries, doesn't have a problem staying on the field, because we've got 2 corners that we really like that are both already coming off of ACL injuries. I would just like a little bit more certainty. That's why I don't love, but I would prefer potentially the Ramsey situation to this, because I mean, even if you've got to pay a little bit more or, give up something for it, at least you're actually getting a floor here. I don't know that Alexander is actually providing you a floor, because he's just been hurt so much.
Yeah, I mean, those are all things that you're going to have to get guys that you trust talking to you about these decisions. To me, it's a little bit like handicapping horses. I mean, we could put these 3 horses in the gate, Ramsey and Gilmore and Jair Alexander, and which one of them got front wraps on, and which of them haven't had very good workouts, and which one of them do you think goes 6/8 of a mile, which one of them do you think can go the distance. I mean, all the things that you're going to be throwing around, and you're going to be asking, and you're going to say, hey, one of these horses we got to give a lot of money for, and one of them we're not going to have to give as much money for, and then what do we get out of the one that we don't give as much money for? There's a lot of little factors here. It isn't just saying, well, I like this guy, or I think that guy is a better player, or I think, he would fit better in this situation, or whatever the scenario is. There's just, you got to really have your finger on the pulse of where is he from a health standpoint. And then I wouldn't have a problem at all bringing him in here on a 1-year deal. he might come in here and gamble on himself. I mean, it's not any different than, it's a different position, but I mean, Nick Chubb's going to Houston for $2.5 million for 1 year. And you got Nixon there. So look, all of a sudden you've strengthened the position. And so whether the Cowboys do or don't have injuries at that position, I'm all for a guy like this. You're going to lose certain guys to attrition every year, and you got to have some depth. So, do I think it's really going to matter where Trayvon is? I do. I'd like, and that's what I'm saying. I think Brent Bradley could go in and say, "Hey, man, this guy may not be healthy to week 6 or 7 of the season." If that's the case, we got to shift gears and think about what we're going to do here.
That's exactly right. Like, I agree. Like, I think that's that's all part of the huge reason of seeing Diggs, right? Is because it helps you inform the decision on exactly if so, what caliber type of cornerback you need to go out and get off the street, right? Is it a situation where you could just simply go and DJ Dog or whoever, the lunatic, whoever suggested it, like where you can afford to just go and sign Gilly and have him come in here and Stephon Gilmore to come in and play, like for a couple weeks and then be just kind of a rotational guy that helps you out once you get your full complement of cornerbacks back. I also think that, they drafted Savon Ravel with the idea of giving him opportunity. So, whatever they're doing, they're not going to commit long-term probably to whoever this is. So that may make the Ramsey situation less appetizing for Ramsey because the Cowboys may not commit to him. Maybe the same thing with Alexander, right? Like, we don't know what the market is for Alexander right now. It could be that there's a team out there willing to give him a 3-year deal, because they're willing to risk it. I wouldn't do that if I was the Cowboys, simply because you've got guys that you want to play and you don't want to make major long-term financial commitments to that. I agree. A 1-year deal, depending on what the cost is, that makes some sense. But I think, like Coach said, it's not just like weighing all these names and saying, who do you want? It's a lot like the Pickens situation that we talked about, where, okay, this guy's a trade situation. This guy's a high price signing. This guy's a low price signing. Would you rather have Gilmore at a low cost versus Alexander at a high cost versus Ramsey at a high cost and a trade pick? Like, that's kind of what you're weighing, and all of the health information that's there as well. And then on top of that, like Coach said, where's Diggs' knee, and how does that inform the timeline of how long you need this player for, or how long you need this player to, be reliable and be relied upon and potentially be targeted until we have, a healthy third, fourth corner come back. So
where is Rebel from a health standpoint? What percentage is he? What is the real? I mean, what is the real deal? I mean, I'm going to tell you this. I mean, if Diggs came in here and he's not where we would want him to be, I wouldn't have a problem cutting his ass. I mean, I'm just telling you. I mean, I think you got a new guy coming in here with it's a new sheriff in town, and you know what? You want to send the message, and not that I'm for it or against it. What I'm saying is if he comes in here out of shape and you don't think he's been doing his work and his knee is not where it needs to be, shoot, there's a lot of different things you can do here.
I'm pretty sure that was the topic of today's episode of Locked On Cowboys, was that Diggs was a guy that we felt like could potentially be a surprise. I mean, not a surprise cut. I mean, it's just the way it is. Look, all his guaranteed money has been paid out. He's had multiple knee injuries now. There's obviously been whispers that part of the reason that he potentially suffered this second knee injury was at least because the Cowboys seem to think that he may not have rehabbed his first knee injury properly. There's some level of animosity that did exist or does exist between the Cowboys and or at least the front office and Diggs. So I think, the situation is certainly, and look, and the other thing too that we haven't discussed is that Deron Bland is a free agent this year. And I think that they really like Deron Bland. So if there's the opportunity to cut Diggs and give him $15 million of Diggs's dollars, give Bland $15 million of Diggs's dollars in order to keep Bland here long term. I think that makes a lot of sense. I hate to see Diggs go, but I mean, look, if I agree. If he's not rehabbed the knee, if he's not going to be ready, close to the, first quarter of the season, let's say, then, then that makes a lot more sense. Then it's like, what are we even doing here? Let's cut him and send the money over to Bland for a long-term deal. And now that frees us up even more so to talk about trading for Ramsey or signing Alexander or signing Gilmore and seeing what you can do from there.
And what kind of message does that send the rest of your team
Yep,
if he comes in here and he's out of shape and his knee's not, and they're like, man, we're looking at a minimum 4 months here. I mean, what? And now the other guys are standing, looking around, going, wait a minute, this guy wasn't here all off season. He's hanging out in Miami doing whatever. I mean, who's to say I can't do that? And so you're sending the wrong message to a football team that's trying to change the culture.
Now, I should say real quick, because we don't know. Like, I don't
have any idea.
No. Yeah, we don't have any idea. We're projecting, like, if that is the case, and certainly there's a lot to indicate that might be the case, just based on the kind of subtext of what we've been hearing out of the front office. But there is also the other case where he's been in Miami working with Dr. Reif, who also worked on his brother's ACL recovery, and his brother came back 2 months early from his ACL injury. So there is the possibility that he's been working extremely hard, and Diggs is in a great place and maybe is ready to come back earlier than we think. And all of this is moot, but this is all part of what goes into the kind of decision-making that is made before you potentially sign a guy like Jair Alexander.
And let me tell you, every single guy is different. Every single guy is different. How he heals, how he comes back. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember Adrian Peterson. I mean, he'd had knee surgery, and he was like a damn greyhound a month later. So he had different genes. And I'm not talking about them Wranglers, Jeff, like you wear. I'm talking about he had some different makeup to him.
I can honestly say I've never worn a pair of Wranglers my entire life.
Oh, all right. 501 button fly. Whatever. You go to your church and I'll go to mine. Whatever. Yeah, whatever.
All right. Well, we got a lot of people weighing in on that. And I have a question for you too I want to get to, but let's kind of run down the list here. The Lunatic says just sign Gilly before some other team steals him from us. DJ Dog says Gilmore seems more than plausible. The Lunatic says we got around $31 million in salary cap, and our front office loves to roll about $20 million to next season. Let's get Gilly. Hen Dog Cowboy says, give me DJ Reader. I like our cornerback room. Diggs and Ravel are coming back sooner than later, in my opinion. DJ Dog, I do believe the hype that Ravel will be close to 100% by the start of the season. If that's true, we should get the low cost of Gilly. The Lunatic says there are other options also for a defensive tackle and free agency. And DJ Dog says, I think Donovan Wilson should be looking over his shoulder. And one more. Hen Dog says Diggs is looking real good from the footage I've seen. That would be a mistake to me if the Cowboys release him. And that goes to your point. I mean, we'll see, right? We'll find out tomorrow what they have to say and how he looks. A lot of people have brought up Stephon Gilmore. We've talked about him a lot on this show. I have a question about him, but I will do that when we come back. How's that? That's a good tease right there.
Tease right there.
Yeah. We'll do that coming up next as the Cowboys Squad Show continues. We are back. The Cowboys Squad Show. Landon McCool, co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith, all over the radio waves, local TV, and kind enough to hang with us every Monday and Thursday and after the games during the regular season. All right. So with much love and respect to Stephon Gilmore, former Defensive Player of the Year, right, at one point earlier in his career with the Patriots. Here's my only thing. When I've seen him the last couple of seasons, not that same guy. And I know he can play the position. I'm not doubting his ability, his pedigree, his smarts, his brains, but saw him get beat maybe a little more than I'd like to see. Maybe I'm nitpicking. If I am, you guys can correct me and pounce on me. I'm just saying, I don't know if he would be my first option.
Well, I mean, it's what's available.
Do you know anybody that outruns Father Time?
Yeah.
No.
Right. Undefeated. Right. It's undefeated. And so, yeah, I mean, he's a little long in the tooth. Is he going to be smart? Is he going to know where to line up? Is he going to know what checks is? Yeah. But you know what? You can count on that. 2 or 3 times a year, he's going to get one of these young guys that's going to blow by him. And that's just you take all of those things into consideration when you're thinking about the direction that you're going to go. Because I agree, there's a certain comfort level with him in knowing that he's out there until somebody runs a stutter and go on him, and you're like, oh wow. I mean, and you say some other words other than that. Trying to clean my language up, Jeff. Can you tell?
Yeah,
doing a great job, Coach.
Outstanding.
You didn't curse there, which I would have almost certainly. I think the thing with Gilmore is that it's about with a lot of these older players, it's about overexposing them, right? And I think that's, to me, the reason I think that Gilmore is a viable option is that, or I guess the scenario in which I feel like Gilmore is a viable option is the one that I kind of previously laid out, where you've got good timelines on Diggs and Ravel, and you feel like they're going to be back in a more timely manner. You're likely looking at Diggs coming back, Halloweenish, right? Ravel may be ahead of him. Ravel may be actually, able to play kind of earlier in the season, maybe even first week. I don't know. We'll find out more as we go. But so I think if those timelines are legitimate and they seem good, I think a Gilmore situation makes some sense, because if you're only playing him for a month as a starter, I don't know that you're overexposing a older guy to more than he can handle. I think a month worth of starting games, and then he kind of fades back into a rotational player. And again, a positive influence in your locker room, a veteran, like Coach said, who obviously can help the young guys as well. I think that makes some sense in the right situation. But again, if Diggs comes in and he's not going to be ready till November, and we just don't know where Ravel is, I think you certainly can make the case that it's that you need something more than Gilmore in here to kind of be a true kind of opposite starter of Bland.
And you got some feedback on where Ravel is before you drafted him. I mean, some. I'm saying some. Now, I'm sure he's been there. I'm sure he's been doing the work. So, it's crazy to think, but I mean, Brett Brown's going to play a big role in giving these guys, a suggestion of a direction for, we're talking about 3 or 4 guys. I mean, there's, and I'm just talking about in the secondary. That's not other positions. I mean, I'm talking about guys that, there's always been the talk. Do you build a defense from the front back, or do some guys even think because it's throwing the football so much today that you got to build it. You got to have those guys in the secondary. So I just think there's a lot of different what if scenarios, and we don't have that information. I mean, certainly I try to talk to guys in the building and just see if I can nitpick a little something out of it, so I'm not on here just shooting a damn starter gun pistol at the track meet. But that's I mean, you're trying to figure out where are guys and how are we going to best navigate through this situation.
All right. Where do you guys stand on Deron Bland playing a lot in the slot, and how do you think he feels about that, especially in a contract?
I think, if you need him to play there, you play him there, and I mean, he has proven that he can. I think that they want to try a couple other guys there as well first.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that there's an argument to be made that playing in the slot is going to get you less money, because this isn't a situation where Deron Bland only plays in the slot. That's where you get, paid slot corner money, right? Deron Bland can play in the slot. But he is also, holds the pick six record while playing on the outside. So, I mean, he's clearly proven that he can play on the outside as well. So let's not confuse someone who's a limited player with somebody who's a versatile player. Deron Bland's a versatile player. That makes him more valuable. Not a limited player, which makes you less valuable.
Well, I mean, we're talking about handicapping horses. Instead of talking about the horse that's going to win, I'll tell you the horse that ain't going to win. They're not going to bring Stephon Gilmore in and make him a slot corner. That is not going to happen.
Yeah, they might use the gun on the horse in a different way. That scenario.
I think it's Mukwama who's going to get the first shot. I mean, I think that's why they re-signed him. And I think that they're going to try using a couple different players in that spot. And that's kind of what they were doing in Chicago with Eberflus as well, is kind of playing a couple different guys. They had one guy that they really liked, but he got injured. And so they would rotate a couple different guys. And I think, especially now, as it seems like the tide is turning back towards offenses trying to run the football to take advantage of undersized defensive fronts, that we will start to see maybe some more bigger bodies in those slot positions, because they're just going to have more run responsibilities as teams try to, run out of passing formations more often. I mean, listen, it's part of the reason the Cowboys, back to Diggs, right? Like, part of the reason that the Cowboys really struggled at times in run defense is because teams would attack the edges and attack the outside against this defense and make those corners try to come up and make tackles in space. And the Cowboys defense had very mixed results, to say the least.
And a more physical inside guy, not only against the run, but against the pass. Get in there and play the leverage and, knock some of these smaller slot guys around. Get up there and play them. It is a dangerous situation because that guy's always uber fast, and he's got a two-way go, but get in there and play the game, and play heavy inside leverage or heavy outside leverage, and don't let him go a certain play.
I think that's, Coach, what they're going to do, right? Is I think that they're going to play a lot more zone, and so they're not going to ask this guy to chase across the formation some water bug who's going to lose him in 3 steps. It's more going to be like dropping into a hook, or be keeping eyes on the quarterback sort of stuff when they play those bigger slot guys. And I think that if they want to play, there's going to be situations where they're going to play man coverage, right? That's just going to be part of it. But I think that just not overexposing their slots to a bunch of man coverage may be a way to get a third safety out there. Maybe that guy in some packages is Wanye Thomas as a third safety, kind of playing in the slot, dropping into a zone, and then just being a really good run defender or blitzer. So.
I think what I don't like doing is, before we know what guys can really do, I'm saying, before Eberflus really has a feel for what guys can do, hey, go in with an open mind as to what you're going to do on the back end, and let guys dictate what they can and can't do, and then build your defense around that. I don't like saying, hey, we got to go in, we got to be 60% man if you don't have man cover guys. To me, it's ignorant.
Well, and also, like we've just been talking about for the last few weeks, football is cyclical, so, you kind of might need to make a decision on how much man or zone you're playing based on what the offense that you're facing is doing. So I definitely agree that I think, it's about the players, right? Finding out what they do well. I also think that in order to like build a defense that is fundamentally sound, you've got to find a way to have players with enough kind of diverse skill set to be able to run the defenses that you need to run on an NFL field.
All right. Hey, speaking of defenses, we haven't talked a lot of late, feels like, about the D line specifically. And we got a couple of our viewers, listeners, Jay Kelly and Daniel Solorio, talking about how they feel that defensive tackle is a big concern or a bigger concern. Two-part question. One, where does it, how do you feel about where they stand right now with the moves that they've made coming in to this mini camp and into the offseason? And Coach, for you, I know we kind of hit on this in the beginning, but I mean, if you're Eberflus, can you get any kind of an idea of, what kind of depth you have at different positions from a mandatory minicamp, or no, really you have kind of an idea, but you really have to wait until you get out there and go at it in training camp?
Well, I mean, he's already looked at all the cut-ups. I mean, he knows what guys can do, or he's got a feeling
Right.
of what he saw out of those cut-ups that guys can do. And yeah, they're I mean, right now, when you look at where the Cowboys are, they need to stop the run. They need to be more physical up front. And I mean, I saw Mozzie last year do some really good things at the end of the year. So yeah. I think you gotta have taken a look at those cut-ups, and I'm sure that Eberflus has in his mind what he thinks certain guys' strengths are, and then you start to put them and implement those through when you get to training camp. Are you going to know much coming out of this? No, but you will. You're going to see guys run, and you're going to get a feel for how guys run and how guys take angles, what their real strengths are. Because I don't care what anybody says until you. I'm not talking about looking at the film, until you see them and you see how guys look and how they play and what leverage they play with, how they look, and all those things. I mean, that's what this time is for, is to identify what you have, identify and put guys in the right position.
Yeah, and I'll just speak to the personnel side of this.
Yeah.
I don't – this is a time for big 35-plus nose tackles to be on the couch. Like, they're just not signing yet, right? Like, and a lot of them don't want to be in training camp, and that's kind of the prescription that you need for this particular issue, right? Is that the kind of finishing touch you need in this defensive line is one more big 330-pound plus nose tackle whose whole job is to take on double teams, to keep the linebackers clean, maybe a little bit of the push the pocket, but not much. We need one more big hog molly to kind of prevent the run. And those guys are readily available right now, and they will be available probably a week or two into training camp, maybe even beyond. So the Cowboys have this is one of the few positions that, and this is not coincidence. The Cowboys likely set themselves into this, right? Knowing that this is the case. This is one of the positions where, also like running back, where you can probably pick up somebody that you need at this specific skill set all the way up until the regular season. Because there's just going to be one of these guys kind of readily available, just teetering on the line of retiring, right? And like, that probably doesn't want to come into training camp anyway. So that's why they're available in mid-August. So the Cowboys still have time here. They have time to wait to training camp to see how Mozzie looks, and depending on how it's just like what we just talked about with the corners. Get into camp, see what you've got in these guys, and then that will dictate what you need to go shopping for. Do you need to go shopping for a guy who can just be a fat guy to put in the middle for 15 to 20 snaps a game? That's it. or do you need to go out and invest more than that? Trade for a guy that may be available, or see if somebody's willing to send you somebody that they were about to cut, and go get a little bit more than what you're looking for, than just kind of the Jonathan Hankins, or the, name your nose tackle that's usually available in August right in the middle of training camp.
All right. Well said. Okay. We're going to take our final timeout. When we come back, some final thoughts from the coach and Landon. Also, some more of your comments. Stephen White, a little late tonight, but we're glad he made it. Thanks for jumping in. I think it was Hen Dog that coach brought up Jordache jeans. Remember Jordache and Guess and
I had both those, and I was wearing them when it was. This will be the couple skate guy's choice.
There you go. Funny. Nice. I love it. Good stuff. All right. Our final segment coming up next. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. We are back. The Cowboys Squad Show on the eve of Cowboys mandatory mini camp coming up over the next 3 days at the Star. Looking forward to that. Landon, let me ask you this. What would have been some of the highlights of your more recent episodes with Marcus? And, what do you, is there anything you're looking for to come out of this mini camp? Anything you're kind of hoping to maybe get a bit more clarity on?
Well, I think the difference in what you can kind of glean between OTAs and minicamp is that, maybe you can kind of get a little bit better idea in some of the pecking order of I'm certainly not writing depth charts out in pen at this point, but I think, you might be able to get a little bit better idea of who is going to be where in the kind of, sort of pre-depth chart situation, right? Because they are going to want those guys to start kind of getting some chemistry together. But at the same time, like, these are also a lot of positions where they're going to be kind of moving guys. Like for instance, offensive line, right? Like offensive line, previous to the season, they did a lot of rotating, even with the first team, just to kind of get these guys experience with other players. It'll be interesting to see if that's something that they continue to do. And I actually think that was something that McCarthy did that I really liked, because it especially compared to the previous administration, it gave your offensive linemen opportunities to kind of learn the chemistry with the other players. And then you didn't see as much disaster when you saw offensive linemen being rotated in, as you sometimes saw in the Garrett administration. So I do think that there is some, like I said, that you can glean for, how the rotation of the running backs, or at least how they're trying the running backs a little bit earlier. More of kind of what we talked about just this last segment about who's playing in the nickel, how often are they playing in the nickel, and who's playing with the ones. Are they rotating guys in positions that we haven't seen them play previously? I'll give you an example. McQuamu apparently in OTAs was playing on the outside, which we hadn't really seen. He was an outside corner in college, but since he's been in the NFL, we've only really seen him play in the slot and safety, basically. So are there guys playing in, especially with this new coaching staff, right? Are there guys playing in positions that they hadn't been playing in previously? And what does that mean, right? Does that mean that they're just trying things out, or does that mean that the coaching staff views those players differently? So it's a lot of little things, it's trying to gather up all the information and look for what looks out of place or what's different, and then trying to figure out why it's different. What are the variables that caused that information, that data to be different than what you expected?
I think the one thing I would want to come out of this with is I want to know where we're at from a quarterback standpoint. This guy we traded for, is he better than Cooper Rush? He's got more upside. We know Dak's been hurt. The one thing you can see is the guy's anticipation of driving the football in certain windows. throwing the football in the NFL is about fitting the nose in tight windows. And I want to see if this guy can do it. We know he's got a big arm, and okay, he can spin it through a car wash and it won't get wet and yak, yak, yak. Okay, great. Does he anticipate and understand where to put the ball? How does he read coverages? Does he understand all those things? And guess what? We're going to get some 7-on-7 looks. We'll get some of that. We'll get some of that done. So I do want to know where is he at, because, like I said, I don't want to think about not having the starter. But let's be honest, he's been hurt 3 of the last 5 years, and we need to know where that is and who that is.
Landon, you brought up some of the position battles. I'll ask you both this, but Coach, I'll start with you. Be honest, can any of the running backs with no pads and really no contact, can any of them stand out just by being on the field, or is it really not enough there? Everybody's going to look good.
No, I absolutely think it does matter. I mean, I think I want to see a guy. I want to see the safety come down, even though they got no pads on. I want to see if you can shake and make him miss. I want to see if you can. I want to see if you've got a little juice and your ability to see certain things. I mean, I've always thought, great running backs run with their eyes. So I want to see how they run. I want to see guys how they anticipate certain things. And, yeah, you can absolutely see that. Are you going to see them step up and take on the linebacker blitzing in that situation? No. But what you would see is you might see him step up and know from a mental standpoint, okay, I know who I got in this situation. So, yeah, I want to take this time to continue to build on what we have while we're evaluating those guys. And I do think it's part of the evaluation.
Yeah, like Coach said, it's all part of the evaluation. It certainly is not a final grade that anyone's getting in these mini camps. No one's, like I just said, no one is putting depth charts down in pen at this point. And I will say that, yes, it definitely does matter, but you would say that running back is one of the positions in which it's the most incomplete, one of the most incomplete grades without the pads, right? Like, I mean, yeah. I think you certainly can get a great sense for the quickness, for vision, for the ability to shake folks in the box. But obviously it's kind of an incomplete grade without seeing their finish, without seeing how they take on contact, that sort of thing. So yes, you're definitely examining these guys. You're definitely getting a look at where they are and what kind of players they are. And for, for the coaches, they're not learning a ton more than they already learned from the OTAs before they get the pads on. For us, we are getting the opportunity to kind of see them a little bit more, maybe some video of them in action. And it's at least a step or two further than of more information than we've had about these players previously, and that we're going to get until training camp when the pads are on and we kind of get a more final grade on what these running backs look like.
I know I'm getting way ahead of myself, but right, these running backs, they're going to have to play in the preseason, right? I mean, I know teams like to not play their regulars, but that's the only way they're really going to get a good look. You can't just go by practice, right?
I would certainly think so. I mean, they've definitely got, a lot of running backs that can eat into some of these carries, some of these down roster guys they've carried over. I'm sure they'll add another running back or two, just to kind of take some snaps. But yeah, I mean, you have to imagine that these guys are going to get plenty of opportunity in the preseason to show you what they've got, which means you wonder how much the offensive line is potentially going to be out there in the early, which makes you even further go,
right.
Does that mean that Dak is actually going to play in the preseason this year, which I don't think is the worst idea. I mean, the guy hasn't played in a little while. He's got a new offensive line. I wouldn't hate for him to at least take a series, out there and have the whole offense out there in the preseason, because I do feel like at times they have started a little bit slow in the season. So it might be nice to see them kind of out there all together just for a little while.
All right, Coach.
And I think you'll know that as camp goes on, right? You'll see how all that's going to play out. When you get kind of that 10-day mark, you'll see how guys are.
All right. Well, guys, this was a great hour. Flew by really, really quick. Really enjoyed it very much. Landon, you and Marcus will be around all week. As always, looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to be taking a look at all the information we're getting out of minicamp, trying to examine that, all the stuff we just talked about. So
Beautiful.
Make sure you check us out.
All right. That will be Landon McCool and Marcus Mosier on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast. And Coach, you and I will be back with Marcus on Thursday morning. Look forward to it.
Hey, and I know you're going to be looking, you've mentioned every brand of blue jeans out there. So I know you're looking for a jean sponsor. So get you a pair of them tight ones. So if you toot in them, you'll sprain both ankles, Jeff. That's you good.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Coach. Appreciate that. Actually, you know what? Well, I don't want to mention their names. I don't want to get in trouble. But there's actually another brand that we didn't mention that I like.
You're a seven jeans guy. I can tell. You got your jacket on and your smoking hat. You're going to tee it up with the 7 jeans. I got it.
All right. On that note, have a great rest of the week. Enjoy mandatory minicamp. We're getting closer every day, every week. So we look forward to it. We'll be back with you on Thursday. For the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith and Landon McCool, I am Jeff Biggs. Thank you guys for being a part of the show. Thank you to everybody for watching and listening. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.